Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today, we're going to look at how we can take in player data and then create a simple player profile for our player. So right now, all I have in my screen is a portrait, which is an image, very simple image, rectangular, which just has a color around the edges. Nothing special about that. Now, what we need to do is to start. This will be a UI tutorial, so we're going to use our UI for this. Now right click in the hierarchy, go into UI, and then select an image. So select image and then reset the transform for the image. For the canvas, change this to scale with screen size. Right, so you can use the rect tool to now scale our image, just not necessarily fill the screen, but to be somewhere around the middle. So set it up to be somewhere there. Alright, okay, so that should be just right. Now you can drag the portrait image to where the source image is, and there you can see we have our image over there. So for this canvas, I want to duplicate this, so hit Ctrl D to duplicate and then hide this canvas, and I will explain why I did that as we move on. So for this canvas now, I want to rename this to be my input canvas. So there it is. Now the image will still be there, and I want to add two more UI properties. So let's go into UI and let's select input field. So you can see space for input over here. Hit Ctrl D to also duplicate this. So for the first input field, let's call this name input field, and then for the second, we're just going to call this age. So this will be age input field. So this will be for the two. Now the first one, let's position it by dragging it up over there. And if this is not visible, we can now adjust it by scaling it. Okay, so somewhere around there. Same thing for this. We can scale this also to almost match. Now for this text inside, for this text inside, you can see it's just showing enter text. So we want to change this to match the information which we want to get from the player. Alright, so we can go back, and then inside the input field you can see there is a placeholder. This placeholder would now adjust everything. So for the text inside, we want this to be at the center, so let's set this to be at the center. And then for the font size, let's give it something like 20. So that should do. You can select whichever font type you want. For me, I only have the Arial, which is the default, so I'm not going to be changing that. And then for the space of enter text, you can change this now to name, and this should take care of it. So let me see. I think this looks better, so I'm going to leave it at this. And so that should be everything. And for the age field, we can go to the placeholder, and on this placeholder we can also set the font size to something like 20. This should be at the center, and then the enter text should change to age, so that should take care of it. But then we're going to have a problem as we move on, because name is a string and age is an integer. So two of them, we cannot like take the both of them and then store them under a string. There has to be something which will change while we continue this video. So what I'm going to do now is to go under the name input field, and then down below you can see there are all these settings for different colors and text and characters and whatever it is. So that is not what we will be touching. What we need is to come to this content type you can see, and then click on it. Then we can select whichever one we want to put in. So you can see there is a space for name, autocorrect, integer number, decimal number, email address, and so on. So this will be a name which we want to store, and then for the age input field, this is going to be a number, so we don't mix things up, and this will be an integer because a person's age cannot be a float or a decimal number. So this takes care of everything for the input except storing the data, which we should be doing right now with code. But then before we do that, for our second canvas, since this is ready, alright, there is one more thing which we need to add actually. So let's go into the UI and select a button, so that when we're done with the registration we can click the button so that it records this data. Let's set this to somewhere like 100, and then for this we can increase the height to 40, and so this would not, the text down there would not be button, it's going to be more like okay. And let's set this to 20 so it can be visible. So this should be it. Once we register, we can now click on the OK button to show that we have confirmed the registration. For the button, we can now change this color to match maybe the one at the edge. So let me pick this, and this should be fancy enough. Now we can now hide this input canvas. Our next canvas is going to be the display. So let me rename this to display canvas. Okay, and this we also have our image. So that's not what we'll be adding. What we need are a few texts. So let's go into the UI and select text, and then we can duplicate this 4 times. So this should take care of it. Let me delete these 3 and set this one to be what I want. So let me make this 20. So we should do, and then I'm going to call this maybe name. Right, so I think this is visible, so we can position this maybe somewhere around there. Okay, let me see. So we can now duplicate this text 3 more times. So and then we can arrange this. For the name, it's going to be by the side of this name, so maybe somewhere there, and then these 2 would go below, so they will be the age, and then this should come to the side around there. So for this text now, we can change this to age, then maybe add a colon, and for this text, let's just clear this for now. Let's call this age text, or age display text, just so that we know what we're doing. And for this, we'll just call this the age text. And for the one up top, this would be my name text. And this would be my name display text. Okay, so this would also be empty. And so these are the two things which we're going to be collecting: player data, and this should take care of the second canvas. So the next thing which we need to do is to go into Unity and then write some code. So let's right click on this project panel, select create, select C# script, and then let's call this profile. So we can now open this up in Visual Studio, right click on it and select open. Now inside Visual Studio, what we need to do is we need to copy this using Unity Engine. And of course, since it's a UI, we need to specify that it's going to be a UI. So paste this and then add .ui to this. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and clear this void start and update. We don't need that. And then we're going to make a few variables. So the first one would be a public. This would be game objects. And so this game object, let me call this my name canvas or my input canvas. Alright, so copy this, paste it down here. I paste it down here, and then this is going to be my display canvas. Okay, our next set of variables, these are going to be the input fields. So let's also make a public reference to this. Input field, and for the first, this is going to be the name. Then copy this. The second would be the age, so enter that. And then finally, or second to the last, this is going to be text. So let's access the text, and this text is going to be the name text. And the second, this would be an age text. And then finally, I'm going to have two private variables. This is going to be a string, name. I'm going to call that name, and copy this also and paste. The second one is going to be age, so type in age, and then now we can start building the display and the swap and everything else. So I'm going to need a public void now, which I'm going to access. So this is going to be let's call this set profile. Okay, so for setting this profile right now, let's see, what we need is we need to get name from this input field, so the name and age, and then we need to set these strings to the name and age. So for the name, that will be my string. I'm going to set this to be equal to my name input field. So this would be name dot text. Right, same thing for my age. So for my age, I'm also going to set this to be my age dot text. And you might be wondering why I'm storing age inside of a string variable. Well, truth be told, there is a way for you to convert numbers into strings. That's just by typing the toString method. This converts it, or it's a method that comes by default with all these integer values. So that's really not a problem. I've done a tutorial on that. You can watch some of my previous videos to understand that. So that would not be what we'll be talking about, but know that you can store numbers in forms of strings. That is just what you need to understand about that. So with this done now, let me see. What we need to do next is we need to call on another method. So this method is going to be my swap canvas. Okay. And so below this, let me call this a void. This would be swap canvas. Okay, inside this swap canvas now, what I want to do is of course I would want to swap this canvas so that the display one would show all the names and the remaining stuff there is to show. So first of all, let me say that for my name text, this will be my name text dot text. This would be set to be equal to my name. Okay, and then for my age text, dot text, I'm going to set this to be equal to my age so that this can display. And then finally I want to hide my input text, so I'm going to set this input canvas dot set active. I'm going to set this to be false, and then my display canvas dot set active, I'm going to set this to be true. Alright, so this is all I need for my player profile. So what I did is I had an access to all these game objects and various variables. So for the name now, which is our string, we want to store what we have inside our input field. And then for the age, and we want to also store this inside the age. Want to get this from the age input field and put it into the age string. And for this now, we would assign the text to display the name which we have on our string, and for the age text to also show the age, and then the input canvas would be hidden and the display canvas would be set to active. So with this done, we can save and go back into Unity. Okay, so once this loads, we can set both canvas to be active. So let's create an empty game object. Let's create empty, and then we can now rename this to our I think let's call this set profile. Okay, so we set this and then drag the profile script to it, and we know what to do from here on out. So we need to drag all the variables which we made access to be over there. So for the input canvas, I'll drag that there. The display canvas, that will be in there. For the name, okay, so for the name, we're going to show the name display text. Let's see, name text. Let's place this there, and then the age text, this would also be there. So for this is going to be the input field. So we can drag the input field there. This will be the name input field. Let's place that over there. And for the age input field, let's place this here. So I think this concludes everything. So this display canvas would first be hidden, and then we can now test this to see if everything works. So hit play. Okay, so the game is active. You can select the name and then maybe type in, let's say, Jude. Okay, so then from my age, who knows, let me type 13. All right, so click OK. Okay, so after setting all of this, we still need to set our button. And so for this button now, what we need to do is go down to the on click and then drag our set profile to it, and then find our function, which is set profile. And with this attached, everything else should work perfectly fine. So hit play. Alright, so for the name now, we can now click on the name, and then I can type in Jude. For the age, maybe put something like 13. And there it is. So you can see our profile is shown, my name is displayed, and then the age also shows. So this would be a simple way which you can take in a player data and then use that for whatever purpose it is inside your game. Mind you, you have to do this with the player consent, or you'll be violating some of the privacy, some of the policies of all these application stores, and then they would have a right to kick you out even if you paid money for that app store. So make sure the player agrees before you start taking in his profile or his personal data anyway. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment down below if you enjoyed it, and then don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope I see you in my next video.